Hi, welcome to Ms. Richardson's U.S. History 5-Minute Lectures. This information will be U.S. Notes 1.13, Working Reforms. It includes information that's aligned with the second section of your study guide. Now you are going to control the lecture. Pause the video if you need, write down any questions you have, and rewatch as often as you need. And always use your study guide to take your notes. Let's get started. I've talked about some of these already, but again, it's important for you to really know the reforms and whether or not they were successful. To review, let's look at the issues. There were long hours. The average worker in 1900 worked 59 hours a week. There was low pay. That same 1900 worker made 22 cents an hour. There were no unemployment benefits, no disability insurance, and no job safety. Child labor, children as young as 5 or 6 working 18-hour days, was rampant in the factories. Even within these unfair conditions existed more unfair conditions. For example, wages. In the Gilded Age, wages were cut regularly due to the overabundance of available workers. Men made an average of 22 cents an hour if they were white. Age, race, and gender all affected your income. Young and middle-aged men made more money than elderly men. African Americans made an average of 18 cents an hour. Women 14 cents, and children just 10 cents an hour. This is just one example of the unfair treatment within the workplaces. So what laws and regulations were passed that were going to change this and make it better? Well, for wages, the first minimum wage law was passed by a state in 1912. This was a progressive law aimed at creating better lives for workers. Well, for child labor, some laws existed earlier than 1904, but the real change began in 1904 with the creation of the National Child Labor Committee. This non-governmental group, and others, worked to abolish all child labor, usually for children under 12 to 14 years old. Often the law they supported were paired with compulsory education laws, and that just means that children had to be in school up until a certain age. That age generally was aligned with the permissible working age. Laws to end child labor had widespread public support, both in order to protect the children and to ensure jobs for adults. Now, I've also talked to you about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire and its impact on safety in the workplace. But many similar accidents also led to workplace change. Stories of workers being maimed or killed often led to local regulations being passed to create safer work conditions. Accidents and disasters, along with the muckrakers, helped spur many reforms in the workplace. Unions also had an impact on workplace reform. Fair treatment of workers, better hours, better wages, all of these were issues that unions fought for. We looked at this in the earlier notes on unions, but just as a reminder, unions did not necessarily gain public support due to their association with radical ideas. While unions were not always radical in their actions, there were instances of violence. These instances, like the Homestead Strike, the Pullman Strike, the Ludlow Massacre, which happened in Colorado, or the Matewan Massacre, often gained public attention for unions, but not all the attention was good for the unions. Also, radical political groups could use these unhappy workers to gain their goals. Anarchists used the strikes and rallies to set off bombs. This happened in Seattle and in Chicago. This gained attention, but not the good kind. It turned Americans against the workers, even though it was not the workers who set off the bombs. Actions like this caused many early unions to fail. As you can see, there are instances where the progressives were very successful in their reform attempts in the workplace, and times they were not very successful. Depending on the group involved, the issues, and public support, progressives had varying degrees of success in this area. This is the end of U.S. Notes 1.13. I hope you learned something from your 5-minute lecture, and I'll see you in class with any questions you have.